I still remember the weight of that velvet box in my trembling hands. The Purple Heart, the medal they told me I'd earned after the explosion, took half my squad and left shrapnel buried in my spine. I was supposed to feel proud that day, honored. Instead, I felt like I was walking into my own funeral. The ceremony was held in the base auditorium. Rows of crisp uniforms, flags everywhere, the smell of polished wood and nervous sweat. I'd begged my family to come. For once, just once, I wanted them to see me as something more than the problem child. The daughter who ran off to the army because she couldn't get her life together. Mom promised they'd all be there. Dad, my 2 sisters, even my brother who never showed up for anything. I believed her. I spotted them the second I stepped onto the stage in my dress blues. Front row, center, Mom in her Sunday best, Dad already checking his watch, my sisters whispering behind their programs. I smiled so wide my cheeks hurt. This was it. The moment they'd finally understand what I'd been through. The moment they'd look at me and see a hero instead of a failure. The general pinned the medal to my chest. The applause was thunderous. I turned to my family, eyes shining with tears I refused to let fall. And that's when it started. My older sister, Lauren, leaned over and said loud enough for the people around them to hear, "Is that thing even real? Looks like something you get out of a quarter machine." My younger sister, Brooke, snorted so hard she had to cover her mouth. Dad just shook his head like he was embarrassed to be related to me. Mom didn't even look up from her phone. I stood there on that stage, heart pounding louder than the applause, feeling the metal burn against my skin like it was made of acid. The general was still talking, praising my selfless courage, but all I could hear were their laughs echoing in my skull. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to rip the medal off and throw it at them. I wanted my mom to stand up and tell them to stop. She never did by the time the ceremony ended. I was numb. I walked off that stage with my head high because that's what soldiers do. But inside I was bleeding worse than I ever had in that desert. My own family had just turned the proudest moment of my life into the cruelest joke I'd ever heard. And the worst part, they acted like nothing happened when I finally reached them. Lauren even asked if I could hurry up because they had dinner reservations. That night, I sat alone in my barracks room and cried until there was nothing left. I kept touching the medal, tracing the purple ribbon, asking myself why I wasn't enough for them, why nothing I did would ever be enough. But what I didn't know that day was that the story wasn't over. Not even close. The weeks that followed were dark. I'd come home on convalescent leave, still healing from surgeries, still learning how to walk without pain shooting up my back. I thought maybe, away from the ceremony, things would be different. I was wrong. Every family dinner became a battlefield. Lauren loved bringing up the fake medal girl. Brooke posted memes on her story about people who lie for attention. Dad told me I should stop playing victim and get a real job. Mom's favorite line, "You always did like making everything about you, honey." I stopped arguing, stopped defending myself. It hurt too much. Then came the final knife. 3 months after the ceremony, I got a call from the local VFW. They wanted to honor me at their annual banquet keynote speaker. The whole deal. I almost said no. The thought of standing in front of another crowd made me want to throw up. But something inside me whispered, "One more time. Just one more." I told my family about the banquet. I even offered to get them tickets. Mom said, "We'll see." That usually meant no. The night of the banquet arrived. I wore the same dress blues, same medal, same scars. But something was different this time. I wasn't looking for their approval anymore. I was done begging for crumbs. The hall was packed veterans, Gold Star families, news crews. I took a deep breath and stepped to the podium. And that's when I saw them, my entire family, sitting dead center in the front row again. Only this time, they weren't laughing. They looked uncomfortable, almost scared. I still don't know who invited them. Later, I found out the VFW coordinator was a friend of my old platoon, Sergeant. He knew what they'd done. He made sure they had the best seats in the house. I began my speech the way I always do, by telling the truth. I talked about the day of the explosion, about holding my best friend while she took her last breath. About waking up in a hospital bed, not knowing if I'd ever walk again. About the Purple Heart that now lived on my chest like a scar I was proud of. Then, I looked straight at my family and said the words I'd been carrying for months. I used to think this medal was for me. But tonight I realize it's for everyone who's ever been told they weren't enough. Everyone who's been laughed at, dismissed, betrayed, by the people who were supposed to love them the most. The room went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop.
That's when the screen behind me lit up. My platoon sergeant had sent a video, raw helmet cam footage from the day everything went wrong. The explosion, the screams, me dragging 2 wounded soldiers to safety while blood poured down my own face. My voice on the radio, calm and steady, calling for help while the world burned around us. The entire banquet watched in complete silence as the truth played out in front of them. When the clip ended, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. People were standing, clapping, crying. And my family? They were frozen, faces pale, mouths open. Lauren was actually shaking. Then the general who'd pinned my medal walked back on stage, unplanned, unscripted. He put his arm around my shoulders and spoke into the microphone so everyone could hear. This woman saved 6 lives that day. 6. And she did it with a broken back and half her team gone. Anyone who can't see the hero standing in front of them, well, that's not her failure. That's theirs. The applause that followed was deafening. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was watching my mother stand up slowly, tears streaming down her face, trying to reach for me across the crowd. Watching my father stare at the floor like he wanted it to swallow him. Watching Lauren and Brooke clutch each other, sobbing for reasons I'll never fully understand. I didn't go to them after. I didn't need to. The truth had already done its work. Later, they tried to apologize. Texts, calls, long letters full of excuses and tears. I read them all. I even forgave them in my heart. But I stopped letting them close enough to hurt me again. That night taught me something I'll carry for the rest of my life. Real family isn't always the one you're born into. Sometimes it's the ones who run toward the fire with you. The ones who see your scars and call them beautiful. The ones who stand up and cheer when the rest of the world tries to tear you down. My Purple Heart isn't just a piece of metal. It's proof that I survived the unthinkable. Not just over there, but right here, too. And if you're watching this and someone's made you feel small for the very thing that makes you strong, hold on to your truth. Wear it proudly. Because one day, the world will see you the way you were always meant to be seen. And the people who laughed, they'll be the ones left standing in the wreckage of their own making. I promise you that.